All right, so picture this. 5 American presidents, all together in one place.
Wow.
Not for a debate or a campaign rally, but something completely different.
Oh, okay, I'm intrigued.
They were united at former President Jimmy Carter's funeral, and it's an image that has really stuck with people. It's got folks thinking about the presidency, history, even their own relationship to those in power. Today, we're diving deep into the coverage of this. We've got pieces from the New York Times, Forbes, and the Associated Press to see what we can find out.
Sounds fascinating.
Yeah, it's really something. So first off, we've got this striking image from the funeral at the National Cathedral. Presidents Biden, Trump, Obama, Bush, and Clinton, all present.
And their spouses too, right?
Yep, all except for Michelle Obama, actually. It's not something you see every day, especially these days with how divided things are politically.
Yeah, you're right about that. It's definitely not the norm.
And get this, the New York Times even pointed out how President Trump, who's known for that red tie and blue suit look, went for something more low-key.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, it's almost like the weight of the event, just kind of overshadowed all the usual political stuff.
Definitely makes you think. But there's more to it than just the image, right? Think about all the experience in that room. 379 years of leading the country.
Wow, that's incredible when you put it that way.
The Associated Press even traced a direct line back through history, connecting these 5 presidents all the way back to Washington and Lincoln.
It really hits you that these aren't just names in a textbook. They've all had a hand in shaping major moments in American history, moments that have touched all our lives, I'm sure. The Kosovo War, the rise of the internet, even 9/11, and the COVID-19 pandemic. They weren't just abstract challenges, their decisions directly impacted everyday Americans.
Oh, absolutely. Each president grappled with these huge turning points in their own way. And those choices, those actions, they rippled out and affected people's lives for better or for worse. Like, think about the 2008 financial crisis. Bush and Obama, they had very different approaches.
Yeah, totally different.
But in the end, they were both aiming to do the same thing, stabilize things, protect people from financial ruin. Or how about the internet? It just exploded under Clinton. And now it's everywhere, changing how we communicate, work, even how we think. That's a direct link between what these presidents did and how we live our lives today.
It's wild to think about, huh?
Yeah.
It really brings it home. But here's something else that's really interesting to me. In Jason Carter's eulogy for his grandfather, he talked about the power of regular people. Forbes picked up on this too, saying it was kind of a theme throughout the service.
Makes sense.
And it got me thinking, that moment of mourning, these presidents weren't acting like powerful figures. They were just individuals paying respects to another human being.
Exactly. It reminds you that the presidency, with all the authority and grandeur, it all comes down to people. Those decisions made in the Oval Office, those policies, they all come from individuals, people who are, well, just like us.
And then there's that quote from Stuart Eisenstadt, one of Carter's advisors. He said, "He may not be a candidate for Mount Rushmore, but he belongs in the foothills."
How
Powerful. It is. And it applies to all presidents, really. It acknowledges their achievements but keeps them grounded. These are people who've shaped history, but they're also human. Just like everyone else, they make mistakes, they have limitations.
And that makes you think, especially since this all happened just days after the anniversary of the January 6th Capitol riot, you've got these 2 starkly contrasting images. One, a challenge to democracy, and the other, these presidents coming together peacefully. It's like seeing both the fragility and the resilience of American democracy.
Wow, I hadn't thought of it like that. You've got chaos and division on one hand, and then unity and respect on the other. The symbolism there is really something.
Yeah.
It's a lot to unpack, right? It's almost like we're being reminded that even with all our differences, we share something fundamental. We're all part of this bigger story, this shared history, and we're part of a system of governance that's been tested, but has stood the test of time.
And it's a system designed to serve the people, those everyday Americans whose lives are directly affected by the people in power. It's a good reminder that the presidency, for all the ceremony and grandeur, it's ultimately about serving the needs of its citizens.
And that connection between the people and the presidency, it's not just about historical events or policy. It's about the everyday stuff.
You're so right. It's about the things that affect us all, the stuff that happens in our lives because of decisions made in Washington.
Exactly. And that makes you wonder, doesn't it? What does this moment, these presidents united at Carter's funeral, what does it tell us about the potential for finding common ground? Especially now, with everything going on in the world.
That's a great question, and it's one we need to think about carefully. Because if these five presidents, with their differences and backgrounds, if they can come together like that, what does that say about the rest of us? Could we do the same? Could we find that common ground, bridge those divides, and see the humanity in those we disagree with?
It's a hopeful thought, and maybe it gives us a path forward, a way to move on as a nation. By recognizing our shared humanity, by remembering that we all go through similar things in life,
Yeah.
maybe we can start to heal the cracks that have been growing.
It's a challenge for sure, but it's something we have to try. And maybe, just maybe, that moment at Carter's funeral, with all its symbolism and its reminder of our shared humanity, maybe that can be a starting point for a journey towards greater understanding and unity.
It's a journey worth taking, and it's a conversation we'll keep going as we continue a deep dive in the next part.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about.
Right.
And, this connection between everyday people and the presidency, it's not just about these big historical moments or these huge policies. It's about the everyday realities,
Yeah.
the stuff that happens in our lives because of what those in power decide.
Right, yeah. It's easy to get caught up in the image of it all, the ceremony and everything. But at the end of the day, it's about leadership that affects people's lives, ordinary citizens.
Think about it. The decisions these presidents made, they had this ripple effect, right? Across society, touching things like healthcare, education, the economy. These are issues that touch everyone, not just the folks in Washington.
It's true.
Whether it was dealing with something as complex as the Kosovo War or navigating the totally uncharted territory of a global pandemic, these actions had real consequences for people like us.
Yeah, they did. And even though they all held the same office, each president brought their own perspective,
Yeah.
their own experiences to those challenges.
Mm.
It's interesting to think about how those differences shaped their decisions that ultimately affected so many people.
It shows how dynamic the American political system is, right? Different personalities, different philosophies, but all working within the same system, trying to meet the needs of the nation. And you could say that diversity of thought, it's kind of a reflection of the people themselves. The American people come from all sorts of backgrounds. They have all sorts of different views and priorities.
And yet, there they were, all together, united in a moment of shared humanity, mourning the loss of one of their own. It's like a reminder that beyond the political battles, the partisan stuff, there's something deeper that connects us.
That's a really powerful observation. It speaks to something fundamental, that at the end of it all, we're all human. We're all on this journey together. And the presidency, even though it can seem so distant and powerful, it's ultimately occupied by people who experience joy and sorrow, triumphs and tragedies, just like the rest of us.
It brings to mind that quote from Carter's advisor about how he might not belong on Mount Rushmore, but he deserves a place in the foothills. It's humbling, right? It reminds us that even those who reach the highest office are still human. They're still subject to the same realities of life that we all are.
And that shared human experience with all its messiness and contradictions, that's what connects us all. It's what lets us empathize with those in power, to see them not just as authority figures, but as fellow human beings trying to navigate life, just like everyone else.
So it circles back to that question, doesn't it? What does this moment of unity, especially at a time like this, tell us about finding common ground, in a nation that feels so divided?
It's a question that each of us needs to grapple with, not just as citizens, but as people. Because it comes down to recognizing that even with all our differences, we share a common humanity. And that shared humanity, those shared experiences, they can be a bridge, even across the biggest divides.
It's a hopeful thought, and maybe it gives us a roadmap for moving forward as a nation. By acknowledging our shared humanity, by recognizing that we all go through similar things in life, maybe we can start to heal some of these divisions that have been growing.
It's not going to be easy, that's for sure. But it's something we have to work towards. And who knows, maybe this moment, this coming together at Carter's funeral, with all its symbolism and its reminder of our shared human experience, maybe that can be a catalyst for a journey towards greater understanding and unity.
It's a journey worth taking, and it's a conversation we need to have. So let's keep exploring this gathering of presidents and what it means for us all. Let's look at the nuances, the implications, and keep in mind that connection between the American people and the presidency. This whole conversation has really highlighted something kind of fascinating, would you say? The American presidency, it's not just a political office, is it? It's more like a symbol, a thread connecting us to history and to each other.
Yeah, I like that. It embodies so much, both the hopes and the anxieties of the American people. And when a president dies, especially someone who served with as much heart as Jimmy Carter, it's a time for reflection. Not just about the person, but about the office itself, what it means.
And seeing those 5 presidents there, each at a different point in their own journey, some still in politics, some long gone, it adds another dimension to it all.
Absolutely. You've got Biden right in the thick of it, shaping policy. Then you have Obama, not that long out of office and still pretty active. And then Bush, Clinton, and Trump, each one a symbol of a different era, a different approach. And yet there they were, together in that moment of remembrance.
It makes you think, right? The presidency, yeah, it's held by individuals, but it goes beyond any single person. It's about continuity, passing the torch, and acknowledging that the work of governing, well, it just keeps going, no matter who's in charge.
And that's vital for a democracy to work. It's about upholding the institutions, the values at the heart of the system, even when people disagree about policies or how things should be done.
Which brings us back to that question the Associated Press posed. What does this moment of unity, especially in light of Carter's passing, tell us about finding common ground in a nation that feels, well, pretty divided these days?
It's a tough question, and one that challenges us all, not just as citizens, but as human beings. Because at the end of the day, it's about seeing past our differences and recognizing that shared humanity. And that, I think, that can be a bridge across even the deepest divides.
Maybe this gathering, this moment of unity amidst all the sadness and reflection, maybe it can be a source of hope. A reminder that even when things feel broken, there's still a chance for connection, for understanding, a chance to find a shared purpose.
But it takes effort, doesn't it? A willingness to listen to those we disagree with and to see that our common humanity is stronger than anything pulling us apart.
Well said. So as we wrap up our deep dive into this remarkable event, I think the takeaway is this. The presidency is powerful, yes, but it's ultimately a reflection of the people it serves and the future of our nation. It doesn't rest solely on the shoulders of those in power. It depends on all of us, on our engagement, our compassion, and our commitment to finding unity and understanding. That's what will shape the future more than anything else.